All right, yeah. So once again, welcome back to today's session, guys. So today, like I said, I'm going to be walking you guys through some common mistakes that I noticed from the previous batch or from last year, or that even I myself personally I used to make when I was new in the design space. Right. So the first problem I'm going to be addressing today has to do with contrast. Please mute your microphone, okay? Yeah, it has to do with contrast. So um yeah. So essentially, right, one thing that I realized, that I noticed was that, I mean, a lot of people don't really pay attention to contrast, and I think I explained contrast. Yes, please, it's being recorded. Yeah. So, and then I explained contrast in the previous class. So I'm going to introduce you guys to a tool that I mostly use when I'm designing or whenever I kind of get a new project, right? And then I want to check whether my designs are aligning with the standard contrast guidelines. So let's say, for instance, you have a frame, right, of this sort, and then let's say you have a color palette. So I'm going to be generating a color palette over here uh, using the coolest plugin. So I'm going to go to my plugin section. I'm going to look for coolest, and I'm going to generate a color palette. So let's say I'm going with this, right? So I'll select this. All you have to do is to copy it over here and then you paste it here. Then you have that. Let's copy this as well, paste it here. Let's copy this as well, uh, paste it here. Let's copy this as well and then paste it here. So I mean the addressing of some of these mistakes, I'm going to be very brief because we need to make enough time for our presentations, right? So let me just add this final color. Right. So how do you know that probably your background color uh, aligns with the standard contrast guidelines? So there's a website
Yeah.
link
Hello.
that I'm going to share here. Hello.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, I'm listening, Alex.
Yeah, I complaining that the meeting has reached the maximum users, so they couldn't join. So I don't know if we could move to Microsoft Teams or something like that.
That is interesting. Uh, with the Microsoft Teams, I don't have the what's the name? The premium account. I'm actually using my organization's Google account, and it should work perfectly soon. That's very interesting. And tell them to probably refresh or something and try again. Okay. Yeah. So moving on. So yeah, how do you know that your colors are actually aligning with the standard contrast guidelines? So I come here and then I'm going to copy uh this color, right? So there's a website called colorcontrast.cc. Okay, so over here when you come, um you're able to kind of play with um this color sliders over here, right? To see whether your background color, guys, please mute yourselves. Your background color actually meets the standard contrast guidelines. So over here, you can see that using this, using a white text on this background actually fills all the text, right? So you can actually test. So with a color that I just copied, you can see that using a black text on this background actually passes. Yeah, Emmanuel. Yeah, you can go ahead. You can't see my screen. Guys, can you see my screen? All right, then Emmanuel, kindly refresh. Okay. So you can see, all right, great. So you can see over here that this, I mean, the color that we selected over here actually passes the standard guidelines. So you can actually be playing with this. I'm not going to spend so much time here. So you can just see that, okay, if I'm going to use this color on this background, it's actually going to fail and what's not. All right. So one thing that you guys have to pay attention to is whenever you are beginning a project you are starting, actually come and first check that the colors that you are picking, right, for your website, for your mobile app, actually pass the standard contrast check before you begin to employ it in your design. Right. So imagine if, let's say, I have a text. Let me just copy one. Imagine if I have a text of this sort. Um, I come and copy this and then I paste it on this background immediately. And then let me give it a color of, let's say, this. Imagine if someone were to visit this website. Clearly, they wouldn't, yeah, it's not legible enough or it's not visible enough for them to make meaning out of what they are seeing or what they are reading. So always ensure that whichever colors you are using in your website actually pass the contrast checker. Great. So in this case, we could maybe use something else. So when we check the contrast, I mean, this would pass. Yeah, so that's one thing you have to keep in mind, contrast. I'm going to move on to white spaces, and this is, I mean, one of the most, or if not, I'll say it's actually the secret to my designs. That is white spaces, making use of white spaces, and this is one of the most overlooked when it comes to designing, right? So I'm going to show you guys something quickly. So let's say I have this text over here, right? And then I have some sub, maybe a paragraph over here. Let me make this 24. And then let me copy this first paragraph over here and then paste it here, right? One of the mistakes that you tend to see this got to, oh, okay, interesting. 1920 by 1018. And then let me decrease this. Sorry. Let me decrease this and then bring it here. And then let me bring up paragraph up here. All right. So one of the, let me say, mistakes that I mentioned, right, is white spaces. Now imagine if you have a design like this. Let me make it obvious. Right. Imagine if you landed on a hero page of this sort, and then let's say we have an image of some sort over here as well. So I introduce you guys to Unsplash. So let me quickly access Unsplash. So Unsplash plugin, and let me look for an image of a cat. Yeah. So let me fill this image. All right. So you notice that there's not much breathing room on this uh, page. Let me just make it. And this is what you tend to see on a lot of websites, right? Or even a lot of projects that last year most of the students submitted. Let me make this 28. Then let me increase this. Now, if somebody should visit your website, there's a lot going on this page, right? Now, what white space does for is that it kind of keeps your page balanced. It gives your page this luxurious feel, right? Even if you're not a good designer, if any professional visits your website and you've made good use of your white spaces, they would instantaneously know that this guy is probably a pro, because this is like the secret to professional design, white spaces. So when somebody comes, let me also get a button. Give me a minute. So let me add this button. Say somebody visits the page and then they see that you have a lot going on. Your button sizes are not consistent. I've taught you guys how to use components. So you have to make like buttons that are consistent across board. So what white spaces does for is that first of all, we are going to reduce this to, let's say, 78, right? And then we are going to reduce this to probably 16. Also, when you are designing for web interfaces, right, the lowest font size you should go should be 14. If it's a footer section, you can probably use 12. But if it's mobile, you shouldn't go below 10. Yeah, because Apple uses I think 11. So I think 10 should be your minimum. So with this, I have over here my paragraph. Obviously, we need to reduce our button. So let's make this, let's say 18. And then we have this. So you realize that, and then let's make this 12 instead of, yeah. So you realize that you begin to arrange the elements on your screen to have this premium feel, right? Or give the elements some breathing room around them. So that whenever somebody, let me give this one some radius of let's say 24. Yeah. So whenever somebody lands on the website, I mean, visually, they should be able to breathe. They shouldn't suffocate. Because when you look at this screen, for instance, if somebody should visit it, they'll be like, oh, Charlie, like sub, right? There's a lot going on. The texts are just out of proportion. Everything is just too huge. You've not aligned anything on your screen. But if you should come here, at least you can notice some white spacing over here. You can notice some white spacing over here. You can notice some breathing spaces over here. So that whenever somebody watches the design, I mean, they can feel at ease. Now you can do some small catcher. You pick the background color of maybe this to make it more interesting. Yeah, so that is white spaces for you. So whenever you are designing, please and please again, don't overload your screens with a lot of elements. Don't oversize the elements. Don't make it look crowded. Always give it some breathing spaces. Okay, and then you should be good to go. The next yeah, so the next mistake I would also touch on is consistency, which is lack of consistency in your designs. So let's say over here, let me quickly draw a nav bar. Or should I just pick one from in so we don't stress? Yeah. So consistency across board, right? So let's say I have a button on my nav bar. I don't want to come into your designs. Again, let's make this 20. Let's make this 14. Let me reduce this code out to reduce from both angles. Yeah, so I don't want to visit your okay. So I don't want to visit your website, right? And then maybe on your first no, let me just make it consistent. So let me take this color from the cut. And okay, this is already blue. And let me take the color. All right. So I don't want to come to your website and then maybe on your first screen, let's say uh, come in, let me reduce opacity to 75%. Plus. So let's say 40 or 40%. And then let me underline this. So this is like maybe the page that we are on. So I don't want to come to another section on the website, right? And then on the website, I see that your nav items are here. And then you've changed your color to red, right? Because this was something I realized that most of the students did last year. Yeah, I mean the ones that obviously skipped class. Yeah. So you realize that most of their designs are not consistent across board. So you can see their nav bar is looking probably very nice on one screen. When you go to the next screen, you're seeing them doing a different thing altogether. Different color buttons, different font sizes. It may even be that on this first screen, the font size of this one is 78. When you go to the next screen, they have changed it to probably 20, you see, and then it's kind of yeah, yes, it's it's not given. Yeah. So you have to, I mean, ensure that consistency runs through your design. So in order to cure this, in order to cure the inconsistency, simply make a component out of your assets, right? You make um, different variants so that whenever you make changes to one component, it applies across board. So you don't have different font sizes for different stuff, right? So that is consistency that I've also noticed. Another thing, which even during your presentations, I noticed on some of your designs was alignment. Alignment happens to be also very, very essential when it comes to designing. So let me quickly ungroup this and show you guys something. So imagine if I was to visit this website. Let me see if I can visit a website. Let me go to Samsung and see what they have there. Great. So when you visit any website, right, you instantaneously see that most of the elements on the screen are aligned to a specific, let me say, grid or layout. You wouldn't see this grid having a different size than this, or this, right? Everything looks aligned horizontally, vertically, everything looks aligned. Nothing seems off. But when you come to probably a design mistake that beginners usually make, for something like a text like this, right? You see people maybe having it of this sort, and then the button will be somewhere here, right? This is so uneasy for me to look at. I can't even start this for 5 seconds, right? Because whenever you see the design, I mean, things should fall in line, things should fall in place. So you can just select all these, one of the shortcuts. You come over here, so there are these buttons over here. You align left, you can align to the center, you can align to the right, you can align here. So just try and keep your stuff aligned. If I should elongate this screen, and then I have, let's say, some rectangles, right? I mean, clearly, I know I'm not the only one who will feel uneasy looking at items that are not aligned. Let me give these guys a radius of 24, and then let me duplicate it like this. So imagine if I was to visit a website, and then, I mean, these are going to be filled with some images. But then imagine if for some reason this, let me give this one a different color, purple. So imagine if I came to the website, and then the the items were arranged. That's the one. Yeah, and then the items were arranged like this, like in no particular order. You see, it just makes life very difficult. It makes life uneasy. Now, if any user should visit a website like this, I'm promising you they are not even going to last close to 3 seconds or 2 seconds, because it is poorly designed. So you select these once again, you align. Select these once again, you align. So even with this, you've aligned them, but you can still see that the horizontal alignment is not in place, right? So you select it and make sure that everything is aligned. So one thing I want you guys to be paying close attention to, right, is always making sure that your items are aligned on your, I mean, yeah, on your page. I think to the fourth mistake, which I mostly see uh, beginners make or people make, is using rectangles instead of frames, right? This is one of, I mean, in my years of, I mean, talking to people, meeting other designers, I realized that stuff that they're supposed to be using frames for, they tend to use rectangles for. Now, let me show you the disadvantages of using a rectangle instead of a frame. Let me move auto layout. Let me move auto layout. Let me ungroup this. I like using keyboard shortcuts, but for the benefit of, I mean, everyone watching. Yeah. So let's say I have a rectangle, right? And then I draw, let's say I want to type in something. Um, Portugal is winning the Euros. Yeah. So It's happening. So let's say I type this inside of a rectangle, right? And then I want to move the text around, right? You notice that when I move the text actually leaves the borders of the rectangle, right? It leaves the rectangle. But if we were to use a frame would have contained it. But please, the reactions are, yeah, thank you. I mean, if you disagree, you can drop off. Yeah. Yeah. So using a rectangle, when you move your text or any element inside of this confinement, you see that it actually leaves the area. It does not stay confined. But what a frame does for you is that a frame serves as a container, right? A container in which you can put stuff. I mean, as the name implies, it can contain stuff. So let me quickly show you. So this is a rectangle. Let me quickly draw a frame. So you guys know how to draw a frame. You can either press this button or you can hit F on your keyboard. Right. Let me give this a border radius of 24. Let me fill it and then let me give it a different color. Right. So let me copy this and then paste it in. So let me type something like if you disagree. Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. So I have this over here. And then you notice that when I'm moving this text, right, inside of a frame, okay, you notice that it goes, I mean, it still stays confined, right? It does not leave the borders. But if I use a rectangle, the things are just floating about anywhere. So one thing I would advise you guys, for most elements in your design, right, contain them inside of a frame because I mean it's going to make your life a lot more easier. For nav bars like this, I see a lot of people using rectangles instead of frames. You know that it's going to be a frame. Also, now I want you guys to adopt someone has a question. Courage, you can proceed. Or you can type your question if you don't want to unmute yourself. Yeah. So now I want you guys to adopt this mindset, right? Whenever you visit any website, right? Any website at all. I think I mentioned this in the first class. You notice that almost every website, the basic building blocks of any website are frames. You notice that this section is a frame. This section in itself is a frame. The navbar section is a frame. This container here is a frame. Even the button is a frame. These things are frames. Regardless of the website, this is Samsung. Let's visit Apple. When you go to Apple, I think Apple is one of I mean, the companies that mostly utilize frames a lot. So this section is a frame. This section is a frame on its own, a frame, and then they just embed images. Regardless of the website you visit, you realize that everybody's employing frames to contain some sort of elements to get it for display. So adopt the mindset of frames as kind of the building blocks of your website moving forward instead of rectangles. You may use rectangles probably when you are creating overlays over images. What I mean by overlays is this. Let me quickly show you. Imagine if I had this frame, right? So this is a card, and then I want to embed an image. So let's say I want an image on something. Give me a minute. Okay. So let's use something like this, right? Also, one thing that you wouldn't even see mostly online because I had to discover this myself. So you see, I've actually embedded an image inside of this, but then now my image is not centered. That's not how I want my image to be. What you can do to solve this is you come to the fill section over here and then you go to crop. Now, what crop allows is that it allows you to move your image around, okay, to center it, I mean, according to your will. So let's say I have the Arsenal logo embedded in this card. I'm going to create a rectangle over here. as an overlay because probably I want to add some text. Okay, so let me make it a bit dark, and I'm going to decrease the opacity to, let's say, 20%. 20 is too light, so let's say 30, 40. Yeah, and then also if you want to quickly move, I mean, your figures like in spaces of 10, you hold a shift button, and then you can see on this section the numbers are moving, I mean, in leaps of 10. Yes, so let's say I want it to be 40%, and then let me copy a section over here, not everything, right? So you could potentially use rectangles for this. Um, yeah, and then I color it to get it. Now, if we didn't have this rectangle, let me turn on this layer. You see, it's going to be very difficult to read. And which principle are we violating over here? Can you guys type it um in the chat section? Which principle are we violating over here? Placing text on a background which is not visible. Contrast. Perfect, Anthony. So we turn I mean, I would have asked Becca to give you some math. It's Becca on the call. Yeah. So you just give it some contrast and then it makes it a lot more visible. I mean, moving forward, as you advance, you now begin to do more catcher. You can now make it a gradient. Yeah, make it a gradient and then so yeah, I'll leave these things for you guys to explore. So this is one of the mistakes using rectangles instead of frames. So now I want you guys to be employing frames. When you submit your project, I'm going to be going to where we expect you to be using frames. If you use rectangles, you are going to be penalized. Um, Also, I think one of the things I want to touch on as well is called the Content Reels plugin. One of the most beneficial plugins that saved me a lot of time. Now, I mean, I don't know how long most of you have been designing, but I'm sure a lot of you have been designing for some time now. One of the, I mean, major blocks that we face when we are designing is coming up with names of, let's say, users, right, in our designs. So one of the plugins that I came across, which I'm going to be sharing with you guys today, is called Content Reels. So let me quickly show you what it does. So let's say I have yeah. So let's say I have this frame, right? And then I have this image, and I'm going to have a text called I mean, let me do this, let me enlarge it, and then let me group this uh, Command G. Then I'm going to duplicate it. So let's see. Uh, so I mean, if you don't have like some, I mean, names already in your mind, see, trust me, you're going to stress. Yeah. So when you go to the plugin setting, just look for content reel, right? What content reel does for you is that I'm doing this to kind of save you guys a lot of time. So we have some things you can generate. Okay. So there's avatars. You can generate male avatars, full name, first name and last name. Now I can just select this and then I'll click on this, select this, click on this. You mostly use it when you're actually designing very, very complex solutions because let me show you guys something. Uh, should I? No, I won't. Yeah. So it's like when you're designing complex, let me say solutions whereby you have like dashboards, you have tables, and probably your stakeholders want to see you kind of demonstrate some let me see attention to detail. So you don't go about using lorem ipsum for names in your designs. So you just come here, Jenny Wilson, Guy Hawkins, select that, and then you can populate as many names as you want. If you are struggling to find images maybe on Unsplash, you can just come here, go to the avatars section, and then some avatars will be generated for you. Trust me, this saves you a lot of time. So you just click on this, it feels it, click on this, So a use case, a potential use case, um, a second. So a potential use case is when you have a table like this. Give me a minute. Yeah, it's when you have a table. What are the images? But I mean, you get the idea. When you have a table like this, right, and you have to generate names for everything over here, it's going to get a bit like, yeah, it can make you stuck for a while. So just use that to save yourself some time. So that's content rule for you. So yeah, this is something that can speed up your workflow, sorry. I just thought I should introduce it to you guys. And then lastly, I want you guys to, I mean, yes, we are all about soft life, not stressing and getting things done easier. Introducing you guys to Figma community and how you can make the most out of it. Right. So let's say you're designing a mobile app. Let me quickly grab one of these screens. Uh, second. Yeah. So let's say you're designing a mobile app, right? And then you want to demonstrate to your clients, to your clients, to your stakeholders, maybe how some things are supposed to look like. Like maybe if somebody should tap on an input field, how is it going to look like? Right. So I'm going to draw a frame like this. I'm going to fill it. I'm going to give it some rounded corners. So I'm going to give it a color. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste this here. So let's say it says something like enter name here. I'm sure some of you will be wondering. So maybe when you go to the next screen, if I should click on, so in fact, let me make this a different color. So most of these things, right? The more you explore, the more they become like, I mean, they get on your fingertips and make your life very, very easy. So let's say I have enter name here, and then this happens to be the active state. So let me just do this and then copy this color as well. Yeah. So you see that thing where I mean the iPhone keyboard, the iPad keyboard, you want maybe dark mode, you want light mode. You are thinking maybe you are going to create it yourself. No. Introducing Figma community. This actually is a lifesaver when I discovered it myself. So all I have to do is just come here and then type what's the latest iOS kit. So let's say iOS 16 kit UI for Figma. You come to the community and then you search for this. Now what this gives you is it gives you almost every asset you can think that is being used on an iPhone. Right. So let me quickly open this for you guys and show you. So this could actually make your prototypes seem a lot more realistic. Okay, so do it. Wow, I didn't even know they've redesigned it. Sell out. And they're making me use normal. All right. So yeah, so when you come here, you come to components, right? You come and look for these assets. So if you are designing for dark mode, you have access to these. If you are designing for light mode, you have access to these. So you come here and then you select this. You come to your design file and then you paste this over here. So you see, I pasted it. So you have to align it. So let me align this here, and then let me bring it downwards, right? So let me delete this for a second. So it's over here, right? So I can copy this same thing and then I paste it over here. This will make more sense to you when you watch the prototype video. Okay. So I bring this over here like this. So perhaps I want my designs to be more interactive, such that when I click on this, it should bring this what's the name here, this keypad up. So I'm going to, because I'm designing inside of a frame, I can actually push this thing down, right? And then it is hidden. So you can see that even though it's abstract, you can see the layer outlined beneath over here. So um Yeah. So like I said, when you watch a prototype video, it's going to make a lot more sense. So let me see, clicking on this button should lead me to this screen. So clicking on this, I want it to smart animate. I want it to last for let's say 500. And then when I click on this, it should take me to this. So I'm going to be previewing this. So like I said, we're actually equipping you guys so that you can actually design breathtaking stuff for your project so that when it comes to prototyping, when it comes to presenting, you're not going to be presenting some, I mean, yeah, basic stuff. You get it. So let me quickly prototype it over here for you to see. Do you have a YouTube channel? No, please, I don't. The YouTube channel I had was for a different reason. Yeah, I used to upload gaming videos, but yeah, I've retired. Yeah, so when you click on this, right, you see it actually brings, actually read you back. Okay, give me a minute. So this, yeah, so this one is, it was already assigned to something else. Yeah, so let me quickly reduce this. Let me reduce the time because I think it was 200 is too much. And then let me actually make it quick. Yeah, so you guys um feel it even more. So if I should click on this, you see it kind of brings it up and it makes it look more realistic. So this is only representing to some stakeholders who don't, yeah, but okay, yeah. So we'll start shortly, don't worry. So if you're presenting some stakeholders who are not very confident with Figma, they think you've done something great or something very serious. But trust me, these little details go a long way to make you look more professional when you are presenting. So having something like this, yeah, one thing to once again, if you want your designs to look more realistic during presentations, when you go to show prototype settings, you can actually select a device that you want to, I mean, preview this. I'm sure some of you already know, but for those who don't, so I can select my background color to be, let's say, white or gray. So whenever I go to my prototype, you can actually don't go and lie to them that you've actually built the mobile app because when they see this, they'll think it's actually live. So you see, it actually looks like you're interacting with yeah, an actual device. So these are some mistakes that I've addressed, and these are some quick tips that I feel like will be needed for what you're expecting of you guys. So you guys should play around with these things that I've shared. And yeah, I'm very, very eager to see what you guys come up with for your semester project. I know, I mean, you guys won't disappoint me. Yeah, even though we didn't really like spend much time together from the beginning, but I know you guys will pick up. And since you are working in groups, those who are actually very confident with Figma should help their friends out, and then let's see how that goes. So yeah, if there are no further questions, is Rebecca on the call? Yeah, so I'm going to stop recording over here so that the presentations can comment. Okay. So yeah, if there are no further questions, I mean that is all for the first session, and thank you for having me. So Rebecca, if you can let me stop
Yeah,
recording.
yeah.